Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, the podcast where we open up the space to have conversations about trends and campaigns at the intersection of marketing, advertising, and impact.
Hi, I'm Alana Ficalora.
Hey, I'm Steph Belsky.
We're social impact strategists, colleagues, and friends who are on a mission to revolutionize the industry we love.
Listen, today there's a lot of virtue signaling, greenwashing, cause washing, or companies saying nothing out of fear of getting it wrong.
Whether it's a moment or a movement, it still has to be real. It has to be authentic and aligned with the brand, not just performative. It's about the action being taken that goes along with the messaging.
So we're here to highlight who's doing it well, what could be better, and how companies can stop leaving money and the potential for real social change on the table.
Our guest today on Creative Conversations is Jiya Jaisingh. Tell us, before we get into telling everybody what you do, we would love to know the why behind it. So why do you do what you do without literally saying what you do?
Oh, that's such a good question. Hi, Alana and Steph. I'm so happy to be here. Why I do what I do? I just want to use my superpowers for good. I just want to bring people together, highlight the positivity that can be done in this world. And I think I'm really good at it. And so I love that I get to do it. And I want to keep doing it forever.
I love that.
Simple and true. I love it.
Yeah, we're coming back to those
sure.
superpowers later.
So now,
Yeah.
Jiya, let's share what you actually do. So, Jiya Jaisingh is a communications professional specializing in social and behavior change, marketing, and community building through strategic thinking and creative messaging. Superpowers. With digital marketing experience across global markets, including Mumbai and Los Angeles, she brings a unique perspective to mission-driven clients committed to making an impact. Over the last decade, she has partnered with local, state, and federal governments to create and launch public health campaigns that have driven real change in communities, covering topics ranging from addiction to chronic disease. She's currently launching her own social impact consultancy, Snaps, focused on helping scientists, researchers, nonprofits, and brands committed to doing good tell their stories effectively and inspire change. Heck yes, this is what the world needs, Jiya. We are so happy you're here.
We are here for it.
I'm so happy to be here, and I'm glad you say that because as I'm launching this, I want more people to want to do this.
Absolutely.
So I'm here for that.
Yes to all of that. Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good.
Yeah. So, Jiya, the first question we always ask our guests is, what first drew you to impact? What's your superhero origin story, if you will?
Oh, it's a good one. I feel like I had one light bulb moment when I was in grad school, but I was already kind of in that space my whole life. I was a journalism major when I was in undergrad. I used to write articles for my local newspaper when I was growing up. I volunteered a lot. And so I always had this thing that I wanted to impact change in some way or the other. I just didn't find exactly how I wanted to do it until I went to grad school. And I went to grad school in Los Angeles. And I took this class called Behavior Change Management. And I tell people that was my light bulb moment, right? Took that class and I was like, oh, this is it. This is how I want to do what I want to do. And the class really focused on how we form parasocial relationships with people and how the internet can have such a big impact, how entertainment has such a big impact on how we think and how we act and how we show up in society. And I was like, I think we can use this for good. Yep. And we learned all about how to craft effective communication campaigns and, use those kind of parasocial powers for good. As you see these days with a lot of it influencer marketing, how people are so invested in who they follow. And there's so much impact to be had from that. And so that was kind of how I got into exactly what I do right now. But I think it's been a theme throughout my life.
I love that. On that note, since you've been interested in this area in different ways for most of your life, Are there any particular issue area or areas that you're most passionate about?
Yeah, I want to say women's health, health and wellness in general too, but
Yeah.
specifically women's health. Every woman knows when they go to a doctor how frustrating it can be to get comprehensive
Yes.
answers on your health. And I think that is a big part of what I want my next focus area to be. But I've
Yeah.
always been interested in how we can change and be better about that. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how tech and private companies start filling the void with all the funding cuts that we've been seeing in the last year. It'll be interesting to see how that science and research moves forward.
Yeah. It is so interesting. It seems like more money is being put into women's healthcare now, or an awareness, I should say,
Right.
probably
Yep.
more awareness than the money, but there is more of a focus there than there used to be. But also, how quickly can that move? And is it just in certain areas when it comes to maternal health or
Right.
menopause is a big new area too, and things like that. But
Right.
like the overall scope of women's health could use so much more support. So I think that's really
Right.
cool that you're
Yeah.
focused in that space.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
interested in that space.
Excited to see what you do with it. And speaking of impactful projects, what is an impactful project that you've worked on personally that you want to share that you're proud of?
Oh, I have a few. So, one project that I loved is we were working with this client on helping
Nice.
people quit smoking, and they have a really good tool around how to help people do that. And I love community engagement work,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to social media. I love doing that kind of work because I think there's so much positivity to be had when
Absolutely.
you do it right, and you can really create a community. And so we actually pitched and were approved to do a Facebook group. And we leaned on people quitting smoking
Nice.
together and helping each other out with how stressful it is. Not everyone has the support of their family or friends.
Yes.
Some people may feel more isolated or feel stigma around that topic. And so it was really a space for people to ask questions, even if they were terrible and awful and they were feeling grumpy. And, kicking smoking is hard. And I think
Yeah.
that we were able to create a real support group of people that helped each other, and we were able to help them more one on one. And we saw
That's
really good success with that. And that was one of my favorite projects that I've worked on because I could see the impact day to day
Yeah.
that we were having on these people.
that's
So a
fantastic. How many
lot.
people ended up
That's
joining the
awesome.
group? If you don't mind me asking.
We had over 300.
Wow. Great.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was almost purely organic. We wanted to keep it smaller so we could
Absolutely.
manage it
Yeah,
better
fair.
and not,
Yeah.
have like 1,000 people in it, at least for the first few runs, just to see how we
Yeah.
could manage people's, what they're talking about, what kind of conversations are they having, moderation and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. We saw that people were really willing to be vulnerable and engage in that kind of close setting,
Yeah.
and I think it really helps in the process when
Yeah,
you're
and I'm
trying to
sure
quit.
you guys did a ton of research
Absolutely.
on how people
Yeah,
are more likely to quit if they're being held accountable by someone, right? All
exactly.
that. That's
Hmm.
that's fantastic. That's great.
Right. Yeah, a lot of research goes into that. We also look at what are the kinds of
Mm-hmm.
symptoms people can start feeling when you are in withdrawal, when are people likely to slip, when would they need that kind of
Yeah.
encouraging messaging. So it's really a wonderful combination of science meets social media meets impact because it's such
Hmm.
a great way to take all this scientific information that we have around like quitting smoking and the
Yeah.
effects of nicotine and all these really scientific topics and bring it to a community through social media through just being helpful
Yeah.
and being in a community with other people, and it's
Yeah.
not in this scary PDF that a doctor gives you or a
Right.
handout. Though that has its own place, it's not, it's a good thing. But I think it's helpful when it's a distilled down like this for you and we're using a place that you feel
For
comfortable coming
sure.
to,
And
hopefully.
you're humanizing the experience too and building community. I think it's great. I hope it's still going because so many people need that support and that
Yeah.
accountability.
And I think it's a really good approach to healthcare, personally.
Yeah.
I think it's healthcare is so hard, and I feel like we
Hmm.
should try to reach people where they are
Hmm.
also to
Yeah.
get them to do things. And that's part of the social
Yeah.
impact work, right? Are you meeting people where they are versus trying to
Absolutely.
get them to come where you want
Yeah.
them to be?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And being able to
For
build that
sure.
trust in the community is
For
huge.
sure.
Yeah. 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 Such a
What
personal
would you?
experience, right?
Yeah, totally. It takes a lot, I think, to get people to engage in something in that way when it's not just like a frilly fun social club. Getting people to open up to each other is
Right.
huge. And I mean, even just an experience of mom groups post having a kid, just seeing how sometimes it takes having those online groups of people who you don't know directly, but people
Right.
feel somehow more comfortable asking a question or
Exactly.
looking to others, but they also feel community. And even just if you're watching and
Right.
seeing that someone else is going through the same thing and seeing people share. So that's a
Well, and
really
especially when
wonderful.
social media makes people feel lonelier, right? In some respect, this
Mhm.
is a shared goal, and wanting to
Yeah.
have
Right.
that support and that connection and community. It's really, really powerful. It's great work.
Yeah, and I think social media allows people this anonymity a little bit, where
Mhm.
they can
Exactly.
come to a place where they feel like they're not being judged. And I
Mhm.
think when you're trying to do impact work in these spaces where people
Yeah.
feel judged and they feel that there's stigma around trying to get help or ask for help, I think you really just have to approach it with
Yes.
so much empathy and just
Mhm.
really try to be like, how can I help and
Mm.
give you resources, right? Like, it's not
Yeah,
about you, it's not about the science that you're trying to, it's
That's
like,
right.
how can I help you, right, in the best way possible? And I
Right.
think that sometimes that can be so hard for people to find in the current healthcare system, right? You have to make so many phone calls and you have to go so many places and you have to really advocate for yourself. And I think if you can try to bring that impact in a place where they are, like on social media, I think that there's so much
Yeah.
scope for us to
yeah,
keep doing that and
yeah.
making it a more positive place for people. Because you can see Reddit, right? You go to Reddit and there's a million
Yep.
people asking healthcare
Yep.
related questions on Reddit. I mean, there's
Mhm.
subgroup after subgroup, and people really want just answers and want
Right.
people to
Yeah,
be nice to
What a
them.
novel concept.
totally.
Truth
Crazy,
and
right?
empathy.
Yeah, the amount of questions we'll ask on the internet and just trust randomness giving us advice. So it's good to have it curated in the way that I'm sure you were doing it, where you actually had experts
Yeah,
leading behind the scenes to give the informed information in the right way as well. So
right.
people weren't, getting some Joe Schmo
And
making
here's a
recos
question.
for them.
Yeah, the information's out
No,
there too.
I was just going to
Oh,
ask,
sorry,
was
go ahead.
this pre AI too? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, AI technically was around, but it was a
Yeah.
couple years ago.
Yeah.
So maybe not as ingrained as it is now, but yeah, pre AI. And also, a lot of this information's there. It's
Right.
just really hidden and inaccessible.
Yeah, totally.
Like WebMD's there, but WebMD will scare you.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
just
also
thinking,
it's that, right? It's being able to distill what you
right,
should take truthfully and
Yeah.
what is noise.
right, right, exactly.
On that note,
Yeah.
what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? Personally, professionally, any respect.
Ooh. Any and all of the above. I will say, I think I touched on this a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how tech and private companies fill the
Yeah.
void from the government funding, especially
Mm,
when it comes to science and research and that kind of work,
mhm,
and just the changing landscape around science information and
mm.
communication that we're seeing right now. I think that's a challenge that's gonna impact us for the next 5 to 10 years. I think also with AI, I think that it's going to be interesting to see, like, people are going to be turning to it for
Yeah.
any kind of healthcare impact, science, research, information.
Mhm.
So I think we'll be closely watching that to see how that pans out. I think that's going to be it's going to be helpful, but also a challenge, I think, in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah, I think that's something that I'm finding is going to really change the game in the next few years.
As you've launched your new consultancy, I'm curious, Gia, what would
Yeah.
your ideal project or collaboration be?
Ooh, well, I'm still launching it, so it hasn't fully launched yet. But I would love to work with health
Mm.
tech companies to really
Mhm.
find their right audience. Like I said, that community of people, help them build real
Yeah.
relationships with their consumers. I would love to work with nonprofits and scientists and researchers to take all the great work that they're doing and make it
I love
really
that.
layperson friendly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and bring that
Accessible.
message out to the
Yeah.
world in a way that people resonate with
So
it
needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
and make it less scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where that storytelling superpower of yours will
Absolutely.
certainly come in handy, because so often that's the piece that gets missing, right? That there's this
Right.
disconnect with the communication of people understanding what is actually
Right.
the right, not the right information, but like what, well, the right information. I'll just call it what it is.
Yeah.
And
And
actually, science is real. So being
science
able
is
to
real.
understand that and how we can utilize that for our advantage
Right.
and be healthier humans, be more kind humans, be all more supportive humans, like all of the things. And so
Exactly. Yeah. I think someone
understanding
who's
that
doing
piece
it
is so
really
important.
well is Hank Green.
Yes.
I think he has got it down. I love
Yeah.
him. He does it so well. He really knows how to condense
Yeah.
information in a way that people understand. And I think that so much of the misinformation that we're seeing around science and, you know, just research and some very common sense things is because
Yeah.
people just don't understand and we're not doing enough to make them understand. And I think we can be doing so much more and distilling that science down into being like, this is how it will impact you. Like, very specifically, this is the
Mm-hmm.
impact it will make
Yeah.
to you and society, but also specifically to you.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's a
love
sci
that.
show.
Um,
Hank
what?
Green's. Yeah. We'll definitely link it in the show notes, but it's so good.
We'll link him, because I'm not going to lie. I didn't know who he was and I just looked him up. So we'll definitely link for all the people who are as confused
OG
as I am, because he sounds
YouTuber. Come
amazing.
on.
You gotta
Gia
look
and
at
I come from
OG
the
YouTuber.
MCN world, so we
Yep. We
yes.
You
know
have a shared appreciation.
he also has a great newsletter that I highly recommend everyone subscribe to. It's called We're Really Here or We're Here Now, something like that, I think. And Alana will link to it. But it is such a positive about like how impact is changing. It also takes a look at data that people are really scared about, and it's like, well, actually, this is what's really been happening over the last 10 years, and shares good, happy things that are going on in the world too. So I think that's what we all really need
so
right now,
true.
a little bit of,
Yeah,
but it's
100%.
also very hopeful and factual. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of how he does social impact work because it's entertaining, but also fun, but also scientific. And I think that's that's the Venn diagram that I would like to be into.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. If you were to offer a piece of advice to somebody who was looking to have more social impact in their work, whether internally at a company, they're working for a brand, or just as an individual working within the creative spaces who wants to have more impact, do you have any tidbits of advice you would share?
Yeah. I think people can have impact everywhere, right? You don't need to be in a job that has a title that says impact.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you, whether you work at a consumer brand or if you work in a social media job or in any field really, in the creative space, if you're a copywriter, I think you do your audience a service by really trying to understand them. And that's impact, right? You do your community a service by speaking up, by saying the right things in rooms, by making the way for other people. And I think all of that is also impact. So I think people shouldn't try to, you can start small. You don't have to do the big impact job to make a difference. You can mentor, you can share something that you liked. You can speak up in a room where you're not, where you can, and it won't be retaliatory, right? And you can volunteer. So I think there's small ways to do impact, and I think you should try to find it in your job wherever you can, because I think it helps if everyone does a little bit.
Great advice and a good reminder. We can all make a difference in small ways. Love that.
Yeah.
All right, Gia. Well, before we jump into the campaign that you've brought us, we're going to quickly review our criteria for you as well as for our listeners.
Let's do it.
So the first thing we always look at is alignment.
Next is partnerships,
Call to action and transparency.
engagement.
And lastly, optimization and amplification.
So on that note, If you can please tell us a little bit about the campaign, since I know we'll be touching on two, that you are seeing that
Yeah.
is it well or not,
Question
TBD.
mark.
You can just
Yeah.
summarize them both for
Maybe.
us for anyone who hasn't seen them yet. And then we'll share the links in the show notes
Yeah.
so they can dive in deeper afterwards.
Okay, absolutely. So the first one that I picked for us to talk about is Burger King's Women Belong in the Kitchen campaign. And for those of you that missed this viral internet moment and were maybe not on Twitter/X back 4 years ago, the Burger King UK channel tweeted saying, "Women belong in the kitchen" as the first tweet, and then proceeded to, after everyone felt rage baited, proceeded to, in the second and third tweets, follow up with that they were starting a scholarship for their employees, for female employees, because of the gap in the number of women that were in professional kitchens. And we can talk about the many ways that this is a problematic campaign. I'm sure we'll dive into that. But the second campaign that I want to talk about, and there's a through line between the two, is the Nike So Win campaign. So this was last year's Super Bowl. They highlighted a bunch of very accomplished women athletes across different sports, talked about the hardships they faced, about how they persevered, talked about their confidence and, persistence and ambition and breaking records. And it was a very inspiring spot. But we do have some thoughts, so we can dive into that.
Yeah, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the through line piece
Yeah.
to kick us off of
Okay.
how you
Yeah.
connected these two so that can kind of steer our conversation, because I think that that's really an
Yeah.
interesting place to begin.
Totally agree.
Yeah. The through line between the two campaigns, for those of you wondering, is what jumped out to me when I was doing research for the podcast was how both brands led with the most negative version of their story, right? Burger King was about, they had the women belong in the kitchen, and that was their big tagline. And Nike's campaign really focused on how women are told they can't win, but they should. And I was very curious to try and dig deep into why they felt that they had to lead with just the problems that women face. We all know that that's
Yeah.
what women go through in all professions in general. And I was very curious as to what the insight was there for both these campaigns. And so that's why I brought both of them to the podcast so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's really smart, and it's one of the main reasons why they both got such backlash, right? Is because of that
Right.
negative messaging that is inundated to women, and needing to turn that around and get a positive spin on it. I completely agree with you, and I would love, I know we're going to get into it more, but being able to figure out how could they have led with positivity instead, or what was the miss in this messaging and all of that. So yeah, a really strong through line, and unfortunately nothing new.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, women are told that they have barriers over and over again. And while I think that Burger King's campaign, while misinformed with their tagline, did at least have a scholarship attached to it, so they were doing something about it, I felt like Nike's campaign didn't have that follow through. And that's kind of what I wanted to also talk about. You're bringing all of this up, but are we missing the call to action here? Like, what's the plan for after this campaign?
Yes. When I first saw the Nike campaign, and I love an anthem spot, their spots are always shot really well. So I was super excited, but I also got caught up on the negativity aspect of it. Because why couldn't you just take that part out and just have the positive? There were just so many things of that. And then also, yes, I saw billboards all over it. It was like full 360 campaign. What are we telling people to do? Just win? Like, so win.
Nothing.
Just win.
Just
Okay,
win.
well, that's easy. What about all the barriers people have to get there? Let's talk about, how are we supporting women in sports? How are we...
Right.
They've done sports fraud issues in the past. They've done all these things. We need a little more here.
Just win, and only in Nike apparel.
it's giving just smile more sometimes, you know?
Yes.
Like that is the
Yeah.
energy where it's like, just do
Yeah.
it. You can win. And it's like, yeah, but what are you, big company with
Yeah.
lots of money, doing about it? You know? And I think that they did a really good job with featuring tons of
Mm-hmm.
very accomplished athletes. I think the
Mm-hmm.
anthem spot was beautiful. I think they had strong music, really well edited. It felt empowering and
Mm-hmm.
when you first watch it, except when they keep telling you that you know, people keep telling you that you can't win. That it just really
Mm-hmm.
tripped me up. And then I did some research on it, and there's no foundation, there's no donation, there's no we're donating equipment, there's no we're donating clothes. We're not. So how is the next generation
There's
of
no
athletes
empowering
supposed to do
female
anything
coaches
with
or
that?
women to be coaches or women to mentor
Right.
other women. Or I
Exactly.
just saw
Right.
recently in LA, I don't know if this showed up in your feed, there was a new coaching initiative for girls in sports, specifically in Los Angeles,
Right.
that I just saw being highlighted.
Right.
Those sorts of things are so important because
Exactly.
we always need coaches and especially good coaches. That's so important, right? From all the way through, encouraging girls to stay in sports because there's
Right.
been so much research we know about times when women do drop out of sport. I think Dove and Nike recently
Mm-hmm.
did a partnership around that in terms of body
Yeah.
confidence in sport. You know, they have a
Right. It was
program.
Nike and Dove that
Yeah.
partnered together,
I remember
right,
that.
around
Which they've been
women
doing
in
for a few
sports.
years.
Yeah.
Again, having impactful campaigns like this are great opportunities to call back to the programs that are coming out of those other campaigns. They should all be
Yeah.
connected instead of all standalone
Right.
one offs.
Something as simple as if Nike was like, we don't have the budget to do a scholarship. We just, spend it all on the Super Bowl ad. Or we spent it all on influencers highlighting it after the fact and billboards and things like that. You can have a landing page that lists by city
Resources.
or
Yeah.
state resources for
Yeah.
women in sports, right? You could highlight other people that are doing
Mm-hmm.
that impact work. Even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not part of the Super Bowl ad, you could highlight other people and partner with them that are really making the difference on the ground, right? Because you got people's eyeballs with the
Mm-hmm.
celebrities and the famous
Mm-hmm.
people in the spot. I think a really good follow up would have been highlighting people that are doing the work to get
Yeah.
women in sports, get that funded. Highlight
Yeah.
them on social. Do little
Totally.
spots on them. There was just
It's
so
always
much
so
that could have been
Nike
done.
very much I feel like is always very celebrity forward and very rarely highlighting
Right.
the small town athlete who has accomplished something, like the everyday person who has accomplished something really cool, right? That being said, I did do Nike spots years ago with real people, so I know they also do shoot with plenty of real people, with real high school students back in the day. But also, again, tying all those pieces together as you're mentioning, and even back to Dove, they do a lot of great work with the resources that they put out on their websites and different guides that you can use and things like that. So knowing that they've partnered together before, it's interesting that they haven't learned anything from that page of the book. Because also Nike does have a foundation, but they're just not
Right.
linking
Right.
anything to these campaigns.
Right. And they do offer a high school community impact fund and different scholarship programs as well. But yeah, what a missed opportunity to not also highlight some of that good work that they do. And
Right.
I also think it's fascinating. Obviously, these are not just celebrities, right, that are featured. It's incredible female athletes that are at the top of their game, that are
Exactly.
changing
Yeah.
the world, changing women's sports forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so the juxtaposition of this negative speak around what all women
Right.
face with these incredible athletes who are untouchable at this point is also just like, for lack of a better word, it's total mind fuck. Right? How
Yeah.
is a little girl who's hearing this and seeing their role models on television think, oh, yeah, okay, well, I'm hearing one thing and I'm seeing another thing. And so, on the one hand, it's a really cool approach because we know, looking at these athletes, that they are changing women's sports, that they are moving things forward.
Totally.
Yes.
Yes, that
They've
they
done the
are
work.
making the impact that we are looking for and that we need.
Yes.
Right. And on the other hand, like you said, why the negative self-talk? Because we all know, as people who identify as women, that this is constantly being bombarded with us, and at us, and yet they are paving the way. They're trailblazing. I don't know. It's such an interesting spot. Many feelings about it, obviously.
The way it came across to me was also, you should do it as an act of
Yeah.
defiance, right? You can't do this, so you
Right.
should do this.
Right.
And I think in general, social impact work and behavior change messaging, the negative doesn't really help. To be like, you're a terrible person and you've been told you can't do this. That messaging is not really helpful to make someone feel empowered, you know? And I think that just really didn't align for me. Even with the Burger King's Women Belong in the Kitchen, at the end of the day, you're offering scholarships, but instead of highlighting the fact that despite all the barriers, these are the women that have made it and we're going to showcase them, and then also we're going to help more women do it, you're highlighting the most negative stereotype, the most negative version of that story that you can find.
Well,
And I think a lot of people do that because it's
Totally. It's all clickbait.
Yeah,
Totally.
piss you off.
yeah,
But it's
on
it's like the
International
shock
Women's
factor.
Day of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It plays into the shock factor. It's interesting because the Burger King one, which maybe on the back end, I mean, I'm sure everything was well intentioned. It's how an audience receives it that is the variable, right?
Yes.
And not thinking about how your audience is going to receive something, which I'm assuming the Burger King one was written by men, but maybe not. But I can't imagine a woman was like, "This is going to go well." I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
But like the backlash,
I don't know.
feel like while there was some controversy around Nike, overall they seemed to get a more positive response, it seems, than the Burger King did. It seemed like there was a lot more negativity or backlash, I should say, to the Burger King one. Yet, I don't know. So it's interesting because in a world where there is so much hate and negativity, you just think, why can't we just lead with the positive? That would actually be a surprise these days. I don't know.
I would just like to feel like the wholesome
concept.
feelings. And speaking to what you said about Burger King, actually the global CMO at that time had a comment on their ad and was like, at the end of it, the intention, what we are really doing here is good. I don't know why people are kind of getting hung up on this tweet. That was I'm paraphrasing his comment. And I was like, well, have you heard of this thing called intention versus impact? Like, it's not always the same.
No, the road to hell.
The misalignment usually comes because you're thinking of impact to yourself and not to your audience, right? And that's when it usually falls apart because you're like, how does this benefit me versus how does this benefit the audience that I'm actually trying to talk to? And that's when all of this alignment just falls apart.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's just been popping up in so many different places, that gap between intention and actually the intention of a piece of marketing and the way it is received from the audience, and how people think that they know their audience, but it's so much deeper than that. And just creating to create, or even not in a non-impact spot, right? If you're putting something out in the world and you're not thinking about the situations that which people live in, or the situations in which people have been impacted by other elements of their life, or where they are currently, and how something is going to affect them, or how something might be received, you're doing yourself a disservice, your company a disservice, and obviously to your customers a disservice, because you could greatly offend someone. I was reading something the other day that was like, it's not the copywriting that is good or bad, or in any case, right? Often it's not that something is swayed one way or the other. It's the way that it is received because of all the other messages we've received in the world, and what is often subconscious in our own brains of how we oversee something. It's like what happened with the Sydney Sweeney and the American Eagle. Jeans.
Like Sydney Sweeney's got good jeans.
It's because there's a cultural understanding and nuance to how we receive those words.
Right.
And depending on what side of that you're on, depends on how positive or negative you're reading that. And it applies to everything. And I think as people who work in a space, in marketing and advertising and entertainment and any aspect of storytelling and communications, it's so important for us as a community as a whole to be aware of how people could potentially receive anything and to be more thoughtful about that. Because I feel like so often it seems to be an unintentional afterthought, right? People are like, well, I didn't think it was
Yeah.
offensive, so it must be
Yeah.
fine.
I really liked what you said about what context are we all
Yeah.
receiving these messages in, right? Because I think we've all in the last couple of years felt this weird disassociation with the internet where it's like meme, really terrible thing, meme, really terrible thing, and terrible, and then you see a terrible ad and you're like, this is not what I wanted to
Yeah.
see today, right? And it's intrusive, and we, I think, should be, as people and as in brands and people that work in these brands, should really think about it. What are we
Yeah.
contributing? What message are we? If people are scrolling and they see this message, is it going to piss them
Yeah.
off? Sometimes it's just really as
Yeah.
simple as that, you know. And again, I really do think, even with the Sydney Sweeney one, there has to have been. It's
Yes.
rage bait.
Yes.
There's
I
so much
totally
rage
agree.
bait. Like you're like, people are
Yep.
pissed. This is going to piss them
But they're
off,
going to
but we're
talk
going
about
to
it.
talk about
That's
it.
right.
And
It just
so,
makes it newsworthy.
but they're
Yeah.
going to talk about it.
Yep.
So it's newsworthy. It's like, how do you get people to pay attention when there's so much going on and everyone's doom
Right.
Yeah.
But
scrolling?
meanwhile,
Unfortunately, the joy isn't what's breaking through. So people have to go the other direction, which is not healthy for anyone.
except I will
Yeah.
say the Ralph Lauren Oak Bluffs
Yes.
collection was just incredible because it was real people. It was understanding the community. It was taking the time to appreciate the history of this community and then celebrating it. And so
Yeah.
joy in this case did break through
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have the shock value
Mm-hmm.
that went along with it because it didn't need it.
Yeah.
It really didn't. Another really good example was the Rare Beauty perfume that she just launched.
Oh, Selena.
And Selena Gomez, she launched it after consulting disability experts on how the perfume should be designed. And it just got a lot of organic
Yeah.
joy I saw on social media of people being like, this is made for me and I love it.
Mm.
And it wasn't this crazy big campaign. It was just
Yeah.
alignment. And you can tell because Selena has lupus and, you know, she has talked about her journey before. And you could tell it was just really baked into what she was
Yes.
trying to do for her new product launch. And, you know, with Nike, I think people just accept that they're going to do these really powerful ad campaigns and it's going to be an anthem spot because that's their thing. Trust me, I love a good,
Right.
like, feel good ad. I really do. But I think if you're making such a big statement about something that's needs that impact, I think you should back it up with what you're going to do about it. If you're such a big player in the world of sports, we need to, you know, make life easier for the next generation of athletes and people that come after the big celebrities that have already made it or are making it currently.
So have we done it? Have we hit up all the mist for good and for greater impact?
Well, should we go back to Burger King for a second? Because I know we talked about this a little bit before we had started recording. We touched on the fact that there was a scholarship, but what did we find? That also this scholarship was only for 2 or 3 employees
Two.
who want to pursue their
I
culinary
think it was for two
dreams.
Two
employees.
female
And I
employees.
imagine Burger King being the global company that it is, that there are probably far more than 2 employees who maybe have dreams of being more than a minimum wage employee and might
Yeah,
like a scholarship to become
yeah,
a chef.
yeah. The new foundation
Yes.
page that we found has the two employees. I can't even find the employee page anymore after all of the
Yeah.
backlash went down. And I think correct if they had to correct it, they could have done
Mm-hmm.
a bigger campaign and talked a lot more about or how the scholarships have impacted people,
Right.
what came out of that
Are they
campaign, such a
hiring
follow-up.
said women in their kitchens? How many
Success
female
story.
chefs do
Right.
they have working in their
Right,
kitchens, even?
Yeah.
right,
And if
right.
you're
And
going to,
a missed
A
right.
transparency
And a
report.
missed opportunity to not use that as a recruiting tool too. Right?
A good
Not
point.
for nothing, but help your own bottom line by celebrating the good that you're doing in the world, potentially. For the two employees.
Yeah, A follow up on the next
There you
International
go.
Women's
We
Day.
love a good follow-up, and they
Maybe.
always seem to be lacking. Though I will
Yeah.
say, on their current scholarship page, it does seem like Burger King did get the memo on highlighting success stories, because they do have highlights on some of the folks who have
We
received
love to see
scholarships
that.
through them, and with quotes
Yeah.
from the people and the schools that they graduated from: Harvard, Brown, Columbia. So they are continuing to award their James W. Mecklemore Whopper Award recipients. It sounds like that scholarship program in itself has been going since maybe 2011. So they've
Yeah.
been,
That's
I
good.
guess fast food can't stand by too many things, too many impact issues, because, healthy eating certainly not going to be an aligned goal.
One of them, yeah.
So it's interesting that so many fast food restaurants do tend to lean towards scholarships, but great
Yeah.
that at least they're participating in the scholarship game and helping students pursue their educational goals and achieve them. So at least on that sense, they are year over year continuing with that program, while they may
Yeah.
have failed for female chefs.
Look,
Totally.
people make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's fine.
100%.
I think it's okay to have a bad campaign. You get the backlash and people tell you what they feel. But it's really about the story you keep telling
How
after,
do you
right?
respond to
It's
that?
like, have you learned that lesson? Are you responding? Are you truly doing the work to get some of that trust back? Are you changing up your narratives? Like you said, they are doing some good work behind the scenes. Not hard to highlight that on other platforms too, right? And I think that is really what matters. When the goal is to piss people off or just generate social
Yeah.
media buzz, I think people catch on these days. And I think we talked about Nike not having as much of a backlash because I do think their intention was
Totally.
good, right? I think their intention was to
Right.
uplift these women and highlight them. And, they're incredible and the top of their game and, badass. And they've done so much with so little. And I'm glad they're getting their flowers. I think that's amazing that they get international
Totally.
recognition like that. But I think if Nike's doing that, they should also be helping
Yeah,
others
it's
do the
a
same.
nuance. It's almost like
I
a
think
little
that's what
nuance,
it
right?
was.
A standalone campaign, sure, it looks great, it sounds great,
Right,
but there's an opportunity. This is where it really is that missed opportunity for good, right? It's so easy to take
right,
it a step further and have an
Yeah.
even bigger positive impact and actually drive
right,
tangible change other than just selling more Nike product.
Right.
Like, you could
And in the
actually
end,
influence
right.
people's sport careers, sports abilities, growth, and physical movement. Because isn't Nike's ethos really just about movement for everybody? Ultimately, it's supposed to come all the way back to that. So,
Hmm.
in that sense, you could
Right,
bring it back to tying that to all girls moving to achieve what we all aspire to be, these athletes. We're not all going to get there, but what can
yeah.
you achieve
right,
in your day to day?
right.
How can it inspire you?
Yeah. And I think the defiance part of it really it's like, no, they tell you can't, so you should. And I really think Nike missed that opportunity to be like, we'll help you do it.
Yeah.
Like we can help you do
Yeah.
what other people
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
you cannot do
Yeah.
and position themselves as the brand that helps you
Yeah.
win versus tells
Yeah.
you that you
Totally.
can't.
Yeah. That's a good call out. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That's what I thought of.
Awesome. Anything else we want to add?
One thing that I always think of that would just be so easy is just that call to action at the end, right? Instead of just do it or just win, then underneath they could have, like you were talking about, Gia, like some microsite link so that you
Yeah.
can find out all these other resources for women in sports and girls in sports. And
Yeah. I mean, I can see it now. So
right,
when we can help
right.
you. And
That's it.
yeah, it doesn't have to be Nike funded. It can just be organizations that are doing the work. Yeah. There was so much organic alignment that could have been had. Like they could have, I know they spent a lot
Yeah.
amplifying it on social It's one of their most viewed videos. And I think that momentum would have been really good for highlighting a small women's team in high school or college that is doing really well. Give them some eyes. I think they could have shared the love, all the brand
Especially
love.
Well, it's
because they
like,
had so many elements on social. So why not even
Right.
go back to the schools that those athletes came out of and
right.
highlight the coach that got them there, that
Right?
elevated
That's a good
them to the
idea.
next place, right? Because it's also, as much as we
Yeah.
celebrate the athlete, there's a coach behind the athlete that helped elevate them to
Absolutely.
the next level, right?
Really good call,
So
Alana.
you
Yeah,
could
Yeah.
I like
kind
that.
of bring it back, and maybe they pay it forward by giving back, a scholarship fund back to that school or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyhow, lots of
But can you fit that
opportunities.
into a Super Bowl ad, Alana? Can you?
That's what the microsite is for. I remember seeing the spots nonstop everywhere afterwards, not just the visual
Yeah.
campaign, but seeing.
Yes.
It was like every time I saw a billboard in LA, I was sending them to Steph. I was like, "Look what
It's
I
like
found out!"
so
And then I was
good.
like, "Oh, they're literally everywhere. I'm going to stop sending screenshots now."
Yeah.
But even because even the
Yeah.
quotes, the standalone images with the quotes on them were so powerful. It carries weight. So let's
Yeah.
take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So
The quotes were great. The
yeah,
campaign was beautiful. It
Yeah.
came out well, and I disagree personally with the defensive and the negative, leading with the negative. I can see that it was empowering to see all those athletes on the screen, and it was empowering to see that they
yeah,
had made it and how powerful they were. I just could have
yeah,
gone like 5 steps further. And again, it doesn't have to be Super Bowl because it doesn't have to cost you
yeah,
$10 million.
Right.
You can do it on
yeah.
social. You
Totally.
can do it on in
Yeah,
so many other ways to amplify
agree.
that messaging.
We are certainly all aligned there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gia,
Yeah,
thank
right.
you so much for joining us today. This was such a pleasure. Love getting a peek inside your brain
So
and the
happy to
work
be
that you're
here.
doing. Where can we send folks to learn more about you and follow along as you launch when you do? But to learn more about you and your work, where can we send them?
Yeah, well, hop on over to my LinkedIn, my name, and I will be launching a website soon, so you will
Link
find it
along.
there. But for now, my LinkedIn
Awesome.
is the best place to kind of see
Perfect. We
what's
will
up.
link that in the show notes.
Thank you, Gia, for joining us and for shining a light and learning from those who are doing it well and reducing the missed opportunities for good.
We want to hear from you. Let us know, what campaigns are you seeing that are doing it well? Who would you like to see us interview? And what campaigns would you like us to audit?
Thank you so much for joining us on our mission to revolutionize the industry that we love. And please follow us on our new Substack, which we just launched. It's missedopportunitiesforgood.substack.com.
Missed Opportunities for Good is a production of Aligned for Impact and Love of Good.